Getting sick of me yet? You go half a year without me, and now you got me every day. Sorry about your luck. Anyways, the shirt means Bill 69 update. One of a couple that are coming. This is Bill 69 entry number 18. That means 18 times 3. What is that? 18, 36, 54 games we've now beaten on our quest to defeat 69 retro video games, me and my buddy Simon, Civ, the Pie Man. This trio of games we completed for this entry, we finished back in, I believe, mid-October, and include it's an interesting selection of games, and I will tell you why as we go along. First up, this game is just an absolute staple for me. I had this cartridge growing up. It was one of the original games I had for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and I played the shit out of it. I even beat the game once or twice, which is hard because this game it's challenging. And without further ado, the game in question is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This masterpiece was released on the NES back in 1989 by Ultra, which was a subsidiary or whatever of Konami. And you can tell it plays and sounds just like a Konami game usually does. So the story behind this original Turtles game is that the Turtles are sitting around watching the TV, and Shredder suddenly comes on and informs the Turtles that he is in possession of two things. First, some sort of laser thing that is capable of turning their Master Splinter back into a human. So they're like, oh, yes, please, we'd like that. And also, he's kidnapped April O'Neil. So he's got two things they want to get back desperately, or want to get back April, but they want to get their hands on this device for the first time and use it on their beloved Master Splinter. So they set off in a quest to track down Shredder and the Foot Clan and get this person and this object back. So the game takes place across 6 levels. The levels take you, you're on the city streets, you're in the sewers below, you're in buildings through the city, you're on the rooftops of buildings, you're even underwater by the dam, defusing bombs, which is a different kind of level they throw in there, and eventually you're underground as you make your way to the Technodrome, and of course the final fight takes place in the Technodrome. There are all sorts of enemies, different kind of foot soldiers and foot members, mousers, other types of animals, birds and stuff. There's all sorts of weird stuff. And of course, at the end of these levels, you'll often face a boss. Bebop, Rocksteady, some sort of like robot turtle. I don't know if it's supposed to be Slash or whatever, or not Slash, like Metalhead or whatever. A giant mouser, and then of course the Shredhead himself, and there might be one or two others that I'm forgetting about. What's cool about this game is, other than it's awesome, is most of the levels are side-scrolling kind of, platformer levels, and then you have the one that kind of differs where you're kind of underwater defusing the bombs by the dam, and you can go back up and forth and around. It's a little bit different. And then a lot of levels have a heads-down view, a top-down view where you can see the turtle walking on the city streets or driving the turtle van from above, and it's kind of like the original Grand Theft Auto game, where it was that top-down view and everything was little and stuff. It's kind of like that. So there's lots of different looks and feels to the game. There's stuff to look out for throughout the game. Some health items, of course. Pizza, you can get 1 slice, which gives you a bit. You can get half a pizza, which gives you a lot more of a bit, and then a full pizza completely replenishes your health bar. And then there's also some weapons that you can pick up, like shuriken, boomerangs, these scroll things that are like really explosive. And then there's also, I believe, an invincibility pickup that gives you a limited time of being invulnerable, sort of thing. So and then of course you can play as all four turtles, and you can switch freely between them. But when one turtle totally runs out of health and dies, he's basically captured by the foot, and you lose his services, sort of thing. So um, it's what you have to do, because this game is really, really challenging. You have to, and the enemies repopulate as soon as you like go back in the screen a little bit. You come back the other way again, and everybody's repopulated, and it can get pretty hairy, and it can get pretty laggy as well. So you really got to memorize who's coming, and how best to defeat them, because the turtles, and their weapons, they're all different capability, right? So Donnie with the long reach with his bow staff, which is also pretty powerful, is probably my favorite character, although he is slow to use it, so that's kind of his weakness. Michelangelo is kind of like somewhere in the middle. Well, no, actually his weapon's pretty weak, but it's also very quick. You can use it pretty quickly. Leo's probably the best all-around guy, with the katanas. Good speed, good power. And then Raph is really powerful, but his Sai is also really short range. So you have to know what's coming in front of you, and know how best to deal with those enemies, which turtle works the best, and then switch between and stuff. So you really have to map out your strategy and memorize the game, if you do want to get through all 6 levels and defeat Shredder and win the game. But just a masterpiece all around. I love this game as a kid. It was one of my favorites. I played it like crazy, and it was a cool game to add to this list of completions, because you know it's and Simon never had it, but we always played it at my house. So everybody that was in our circle of video game playing friends and family, like we all played this game. It's just a staple, a classic. Next up, this is a game that I don't think I was aware of at the time. I didn't get into this series until way later in the course of things. And I only realized later on, well after the fact, that the game series originated on this system, that we played this game on. And well, why don't I just tell you? It's the original Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. Donkey Kong Country was kind of like a reboot of the Donkey Kong series. Everybody knows the original Donkey Kong, where you're climbing ladders and jumping barrels and all that stuff, right? It's been you know, it's been in movies, it's been, you know, in pop culture. It's everywhere, Donkey Kong. So this was kind of a reboot of that franchise. And the story behind it, well, first of all, this game was released for the Super Nintendo in 1994 by Rare, and it jumped ahead in time. So basically, the original Donkey Kong we see in those first original games, he's way older now, and he's kind of retired to an island, and he now goes by the name Cranky Kong. Cranky Kong, because he's a cranky old gorilla now in his old age. And now the new Donkey Kong is actually Cranky's grandson. So what happens is Cranky and Donkey and his nephew, I think it is, Diddy Kong, they notice one day that King K. Rool, the evil alligator fiend, shows up and steals their banana horde. They're not going to let that stand, right? So they go after King K. Rool and his army of Kremlings, and you chase him down over 6 different island locations, which totals a sum total of 40 levels. In these levels, again, it's all side-scrolling platforming action. But Donkey Kong Turtles was a hard game, even though it was really short, because like I said, you got to memorize everything repopulates, the game's laggy, it's just really in your face and hard. Donkey Kong Country is maybe a little smoother and whatever, but there's a lot of jumping involved, a lot of heights and stuff like that, and a lot of timing on things that you really have to memorize and get used to. So it's a little different than Turtles, but same kind of difficulty. It's not an easy game. So you of course run across King K. Rool's army of Kremlings along the way. They're all animal in nature, all sorts of different types of animals that you have to defeat along the way. During the levels, like I said, it's a lot of jumping and a lot of timing on things. You fall to your doom a lot in this game. And along the way, you look out for bananas. If you get enough bananas, you're in free lives. Red balloons, if you get a red balloon, that's an automatic free life. And then in each level, there's golden letters that spell out K-O-N-G, Kong. And if you get all of them, you get a free life as well. The only other thing I think you can collect are these golden icons of animals, which take you to bonus levels where you can get more bananas and more freebies and that sort of thing. So yeah, you just basically make your way through these 40 levels. There's always bosses in each world, which are just basically bigger and meaner versions of animals that you face throughout the game. And you do have a couple of allies that help you out. There's a rhino named Rambi that you can obtain him every so often, and when you jump on his back, you can just charge through the level and just blast people out of your way. He's amazing. But if you do lose him, then you got to go back to normal, and it's a lot harder. And then of course there is a swordfish. There's some swimming levels, and the swordfish kind of helps you out with those. So yeah, make your way through the 40 levels of challenging action, and you'll get one last level where it's a simple boss fight against King K. Rool, and you lay him low and you have beaten the game, which we did. So that's nice. Last up, this game. So Turtles was a game that was a staple. I played a million times. Donkey Kong Country was a game I was never aware of when it came out, but played games later on in the series, like on the Wii U and stuff like that. And now we went back in time to see the original. This next game is one that I never played back in the day, but we did play maybe the original version of this game, and just nobody ever had these games, so we would only ever play them like really rarely at like friends of friends' houses that we didn't really see that often and we weren't really friends with, right? You know, it's one of those weird situations. So you would play these games very sporadically, so we never really got into them. But the game in question is The Revenge of Shinobi. The Revenge of Shinobi was released for the Sega Genesis, I think by Sega. I want to say 1989, but that seems a little too early. But that's what I thought I read. But anyways, let's go with 89, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm wrong about a lot of things. Anyways, we played, I think, the original Shinobi, where you're throwing stars and stuff like that and doing other stuff, like I said, sporadically. And when we decided to play a Shinobi game for this challenge, this Bill 69 quest of ours, we didn't really know what game to play, so we kind of Googled it and researched it a bit, and across the board everybody says this third game in the Shinobi franchise, The Revenge of Shinobi, is the best one of the bunch, so we chose to go with that one. So the story behind it is that you are this ninja whose name I think is Joe Musashi or something like that. In previous adventures, he has brought down an evil corporation called Zed, I think, and laid them low and defeated their evil machinations. And in this third game, they have come back. They've risen from the ashes, and they are now dubbed Neo Zed. And they have struck back at Joe by, I think, killing his master and kidnapping his wife. So they've hit him on a couple fronts there, and he's pissed, and he's going after them. So I think in the game, if I remember correctly, there are 8 kind of 8 levels, 8 worlds, if you will, each with 3 acts, they call them. So the first 2 acts in each world are basically side-scrolling platforming levels where you're taking on all of these. The enemies are primarily all just different kinds of ninjas and samurai and stuff like that. And then in the third level of each act, it's strictly a boss fight against that area's main villain. So in the bosses in this game, for the most part, are just beefed up versions of the different types of ninjas and stuff that you'll find throughout the game, just bigger and tougher and harder to defeat. Now, as the game goes along, like you play in a bamboo forest, at waterfalls, at an army base, I think, on a cargo plane, all sorts of different areas that you'll make your way through. Um, but it gets a little weirder in terms of the bosses as the game goes on. Like all of a sudden you're fighting just this big brain, um, and then you run into oh, I forget what the other one was. But then the weirdest part is that you then fight Spider-Man as a boss. Like what the fuck? And then Godzilla. Yeah, you beat Godzilla as a tiny ninja man. You beat Godzilla. So, and then eventually the last boss of the game is the guy that runs Neo-Zed and did all the stealing of Joe's wife and killing of his master and all that stuff. So really bizarre, like Spider-Man and Godzilla and whatnot. There's one other one, oh, like a Terminator type robot, I think it was, which was kind of weird. So yeah, it kind of gets bizarre. It kind of has no kind of rhyme or reason there, right there. It's like, fuck, Godzilla? Like, and he's hard too. This game is hard. This game is hard. It's tricky. In terms of Joe, his normal attack, if you're further away from your enemy, you'll throw a shuriken or a kind of like a little throwing knife or something like that. And then if you're closer to him, you'll slash him with them. If you have the sword upgrade, you can use your sword for a limited time. And then you can also attack when you're in the air. If you jump, you can throw a shuriken at him, or if you do it like a double jump thing, then you throw a spread of like 8 shurikens. But you only have limited amounts of these, so that move is a little dicey, and it's not very powerful either. So we tried to shy away from that. Other than that, I can't remember if there's any health pickups or not. That one's a little blurry for me. But either way, this game is challenging for a couple reasons. First, it's just hard. The levels aren't so bad. They have some tricky parts to them, especially when you have to combine jumping with quickly killing somebody or something that's kind of on the other side of your jump. Like, they really put you in some tight spots in that kind of scenario. And then also the bosses, like some of them are pretty tricky, especially the final boss in Godzilla. Like, they just really put you up against the wall against some of these guys. But the other thing about it is that the controls are a bit goofy. They're not smooth. They don't respond like you hope they would. Especially the double jumping can be really tricky. So you've got to fight against a wonky control system while also playing a hard game and trying to defeat these friggin' Godzilla-sized bosses, because it is Godzilla, right? So it can be tricky, but it was well worth the play. We enjoyed the game. I mean, not as good as Donkey Kong Country or the original Turtles for Nintendo, of course, but still, we're glad we threw a Shinobi game in there and we had fun playing it, even if we did get a bit frustrated at times. But there's not many games we've played throughout this adventure where, you know, we haven't got a bit frustrated at times, right? Because they all have their moments, or most of them do. So yeah, those were the 3 games that we rounded up and finished playing last October. I've got one more. I've got entry number 19 already queued up and ready to go for the near future. We've got 3 more after this we've completed, and that will be it for the time being, because we're currently in the midst of our next 3 as we speak. And but we hope to get we're pretty far into 2 of the games so far of those next 3 for what will be entry number 20. So that one shouldn't be too far along, I would think, after these next 2. So, but fingers crossed.